Earth is a closed dynamic system, which means if you burn toast in your kitchen, you smell it around the house.
Hello, I'm Margot, a South African filmmaker. I love our planet and I'm passionate about doing what I can to look after it. In 2019, I did a series of interviews with film companies from around the world. I asked their opinion about the film industry's relationship towards climate change and what we as filmmakers can do to save our planet.
Just produce new ways of making films, or new ways of representing characters, representing storylines, representing the positive attributes.
And so what I like to call the three dragon heads of climate change is sea surface temperature increase, sea level rise, and the reallocation of wind patterns. Well, it has to include human caused. So it's the human impact on natural climate systems for the worse. Our activities collectively as a species are profound. We may not think we make a difference that big, but there's 7.5 billion of us, and we employ a lot of technology, and we have a lot of energy needs. And we have a lot of needs for land use. And because of that, we have fundamentally shifted the climate from a natural state into a human manipulated state.
In this episode, I've interviewed film companies from England. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to do the Skype interview with me.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
I can. Great.
Climate change is a huge thing, not just in film industry. So, of course, I think the easiest way to explain it would be, since climate change is affecting many, not to say every aspect of life, and film is about life, of course, therefore film is affected by the climate change. That's the way I think is the best way to explain it, to especially to people who are not involved in industry as much as we could. All the main problems that I've incurred so far has to do with timing, first of all, and light, for instance. So working with DOPs, that's a problem, not to speak when you are supposed to have snow and you go somewhere and you don't have it, or when you're supposed to go somewhere sunny and it starts snowing, because that happened again. The effect that it has on the film industry has more to do with planning than actual capability to shoot something. But this is where I think is not a big issue. It's not as much as a big issue on the film industry as it is on real life. And last summer we were shooting a documentary and we wanted to show the biggest lake of the island, and it was reduced to like a couple of shoe boxes, and we were like, okay, that's not good at all.
So you haven't got issues, I should explain, of heat and dampness quite so much. You still have to watch out for those things, because cameras don't like getting wet, and when they get damp they just shut down. And the problem with that is you never know when they're going to come back. It could be half an hour, it could be a day, it could be 2 days, because they have to dry themselves out. So those sorts of things might bear upon you in certain climates, but by and large it's just something you get used to, and you try to avoid days when the weather is bad, unless that's part of the story, of course, which sometimes it is.
Well, I'll start with a good bit, because that's my favorite bit. So the good bit is that it's starting to raise awareness The bad bit is that film industry and film production is not very much green, so to speak. When we're shooting, we always have the battery charging. Even when they're like 100%, we tend to leave them there for like, because we need them. That's like battery on set is like life, like juice life. In terms of electricity, the amount of watts that we use is simply huge.
3 Degrees from Disaster, which was about climate change. And my correspondent, I did the material here with a family who were, trying to see if you could live the green life with, energy saving and solar panels and electric cars or hybrid cars and so on. He was abroad. And one thing he did experience was that, I think it was in Chad, it got so hot that the tape, because then they were still using tape, started actually to melt in the machines. And so they had to, that had a climate burden because it meant they had to run the vehicle's air conditioning, which meant they had to run the engine in order to be able to do the kind of filming they needed. That now not such a problem.
Starting to use the least amount of paper we can use, which means also on set there's this huge tendency to print everything you can. And one of the things that we printed out the most was script, because somehow all the actors and production team we work with, they just lose it. So we started handing out iPads, because that's, let's say, it's more difficult to lose an iPad than a script. Let's put it that way. So, and that was the first one. And then we started trying to save as much energy as possible. But no, that's I believe the most we can do so far before we start growing again, because at some point you also have to move between the two boundaries. But the will is there, and also what I found surprising is that there's loads of people who's trying to do the same thing. At the beginning, I didn't get it. I mean, I thought the principle was right, but from a productive point of view, it wasn't. But then I realized how much easier your mind works also when you know you're not damaging what's around you. And then when you have to have a go at something, you just do it. I think that's the best way. It's just a mind shape sort of mentality. Be mindful of the environment that is around you, and it isn't just about the environment as in like climate change and forests and sea, but also the environment made of people. Because I truly believe there's some people like around the world that their concept of climate change is, I'm not going to wear the watch today and something somehow will affect the environment. And that's not how it works. I know it's a silly example, but if you do not know what is it you're affecting and how you're affecting it, there's little you can do. Catering and food. So the smaller the production, usually everybody brings their own and they go to the supermarket and then you have like this huge bags full of wastage of cans and litter and all this sort of cases for like sandwiches and the plastic and cardboard ones. And if you start cooking for everybody first, you save loads of energy and loads of effort, and it's also more tastier. So always question everything. Always ask yourself why you're doing it and what else can be done and how you can improve. I think in 30, 50 years time, maybe it's less than that, there won't be any means or any for a film industry. The world is collapsing apart, and that's sad, but that's the truth. Because if people are starving, you don't want to watch movies; you just want to eat. And film industry or a movie is not something that can make you eat, unless you want to eat DVDs. If we still will be producing them.
Being conscious of any consumables you do use when you're on location. It may sound sort of small, but if you're having a drink with a plastic bottle, or you're using some packet of sandwiches, and these are small things, but they're all important to me, very important. Make sure you can recycle everything you do. I mean, one of the things I do, it may sound crazy, is when I go to a location, a hotel, I scope out whether I can recycle material, and I'm talking now about ordinary material, not so much the filmmaking stuff. The pressure from the industry to upgrade and get the latest thing and so on and so forth, I think you need to resist and think very carefully, do you really need to do this? Constantly brings out new stuff, they want you to buy new stuff. like every industry, and it's legitimate they want you to do that. But if it doesn't really make a big difference, you're spending a lot of money and you're not optimizing, maximizing your use of your equipment. And that is another way, I come to think of it, you can be more climate conscious. So, not only you upgrade your camera, which you may need to do, you're also upgrading your PC, and so it goes on, and you're making redundant, you're wasting, even if you get it recycled. So that's another way you could be more conscious about, not wasting a precious resource, which is in the end climate friendly, because you're not consuming more, which has to be manufactured and so on and so forth, nor indeed having to deal with disposal. You wouldn't probably throw it away, but if it's sitting there wasting, that's a waste of a resource. So that's not very climate friendly. You just need to think in everything you do, like we do in our daily lives, with recycling and the like and so on. Do I need to leave that light on? Do I need to, run this heating system, or in your case probably air conditioning, that much? So it's transferring that into how you plan and do things, and in particular in respect to travel, the less you can use a vehicle, the better. You don't really need them except for the short run from the station, in my case, to the location. Certainly what we've just discussed, i.e. don't buy equipment just because it feels fancy and it's nice. I mean, I looked at this 4K camera and, boys' toys, isn't it? Oh, look at that, isn't that lovely? Ooh, nice. But then I thought, well, actually, do I really need it? And I checked it out and I didn't. So I think it's, at each stage, just a quiet word with yourself to say, okay, do I need to do this? Could I do this in a more climate-friendly way? If you look at things like batteries, for example, lithium-ion batteries have valuable minerals in them. Well, you use them as much as you can. You use them carefully. You try, although they don't have this battery memory effect anymore, where they only part charge if they're part discharged. But, use that sensibly, run it low, run it right down if you can, and then recharge it from base, because then you will extend the life of the battery. So if you get into the way of thinking, it becomes easy. It's not difficult. It's not hard. And obviously, by the way, I may add, once you've been on location, if there's any stuff left, litter stuff, clear up. Don't leave a mess for somebody else to deal with. And it becomes instinctive. It's not a big heavy deal. It becomes instinctive that you will do it, and it just builds into your pattern of work. If I had one phrase, it would be think climate friendly from the off, and the rest is easy. It will work.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.